This episode of Obscure Chatter is brought to you by Staying In. Turn off the porch light, cover the windows. We are not home. The candy is for us. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to another episode of Obscure Chatter. Let's say it's the Halloween special, but it's just because it's the episode that's hitting in October. And sorry to just destroy the illusion that we're going to do anything remotely like those old That Anime Show episodes. I know we've done some funky stuff in the past. We are keeping it so incredibly chill this episode. Like all of our episodes. Look at us taking it easy, not stressing, not doing whatever it is we do. Like that's something actually randomly. Hi, I'm your host, Terri Doty. If this is your first episode, welcome. If it isn't, welcome back. Happy Halloween and all that other loveliness. If you don't celebrate Halloween, my God, you're so brave. Look at you. Look at you, you brave son of a bitch. Just, wow. No, what I was immediately getting into a tangent about, we are going to do things a little differently, but I will kind of just do a little bit of a catching up because I got to tell you, the next couple of weeks of Obscure Chatter, granted, I'm recording this a little early, have been sharing old That Anime Show Halloween specials. And I got to tell you, I guess time, we all know, fickle pickle that time is, but I did not remember how much work all three of the That Anime Show Halloween specials were. Also, just how nice our coworkers and colleagues were to just give us some time out of their day. They drove to my house, and I don't want to brag or whatever, but I don't live anywhere close to any of the studios I record at. So these people typically live a lot closer to studios than I do, which means that they drove to an area they don't hang out at very much just to be a part of the shows. And I forgot how many people were just in episodes. And I definitely edit out one person, and that's real talk. If you can't figure out who's edited out, my God, I would love to live in your world where you didn't have to, do some introspection and realize that people that you consider your friends can still be horrible people. Anyways, let's not do that at all. But as much as I talk about like, wow, I can't believe, like booking people is always like a monster and all this stuff. But it's something that we maybe lightly touched on, but we definitely didn't talk about enough, which was Steven having to do all this post for basically everyone. Like the first one of That Anime Show is me hosting it, and it's just clips and like me talking within it and dealing with submissions as well as like people that recorded. And it was still pretty interesting. We'd done sound design for some haunted houses in the area, so it wasn't like completely novice to us. But then the second one came out, and that has my favorite opening, I think of, or one of my favorite things I think I've ever done, period, outside of just being a podcaster, one of my favorite things that I've ever done. And it's this opening with Tatum and myself that we ad-libbed the dialogue for, but we gave the general ideas. We're being chased by something. And then it wasn't hosted by us. We wanted this Vincent Price type character, which I went Vincent Price and immediately came up with the name Victor Costly. And that was Ian Sinclair. And Ian did not get paid for that. And he improvised most of his dialogue. And then that required a lot of shit on Steven's part, which we probably didn't appreciate all that much. And then the third one was bananas. We went even further, and Tatum and I improvised more, and Victor Costley came back. All this stuff is wild. So we talked about it in a couple of previous years of Obscure Chatter. Like, what if we did something like that? And we're like, I'm sorry, that was a different us that had the energy to do that, because we're not doing it. But we did have a lot of questions. So rather than watch something for the first time and eat a fuck ton of candy like I did a previous episode, or I even low-key, like, I did start writing something that was going to be like this 2-person, like 40-minute play. Just really playing up the obscure, where I play a version of myself, and I also play this like stalker that's locked me in my booth. I think it was funny for like 2 seconds before I realized it was me working through a trauma response to actually being stalked a few times over the years. Some well before I became an actor, and some, unfortunately, as recent as this last year. And I'm like, whoa, I'm tapping into something that you are meddling in magics you do not fully comprehend, youngish mortal. So yeah, instead I'm like, or I could just answer questions from you guys that are Halloween related. Typically at the beginning of episodes, what we've been doing these past few months is kind of going over what we're watching media wise, reading media wise, listening to media wise. And let's table that and just really talk about the questions, answer those questions. I will say, if you're following me on anything, the hellscape that is the husk that Twitter used to be, or if you follow me on Threads/Instagram or Blue Sky, if you are on Mastodon still, my God, what's that like? Because I just logged in yesterday, and like nobody else that I follow has been posting. And I'm like, oh God, I'm still following Neil Gaiman on this. Ooh, look it up. Look it up. Anyways, no, we're not getting that scary. But yeah, if you follow me on all of that, I have been doing a countdown of October recommendations, and I encourage you guys to follow me through that. I talk about just a bunch of movies, but nobody's clocked this yet, but I am going through, I'm counting down from October 1st to the end of October, and maybe November 1st and 2nd. I haven't determined that yet. And I'm only going through like one movie from that year. So I started on October 1st with 2024, and I'm working backward. And I won't tell you where I am yet because I currently don't remember. Remembering stuff is overrated. But yeah, so we'll be back to talking about media stuff in November. Or will we? Or like, I don't know. Does anyone do like a November like Thanksgiving-y like special? Like, does anyone actually do that? Like Steven and I have talked about that. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we've ever done anything because we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. We do the meal and everything with family, namely my father-in-law. And this will be the first Thanksgiving with relatives back from China. So yeah, technically I guess that's Thanksgiving, but we're not like, oh, well, we got to do something on Thanksgiving. No, I am very much Wednesday, playing Pocahontas in Addams Family Values about it. Like I'm not down. No, thank you. But yes, okay, so we got a lot of questions, and if you want to participate in an Obscure Chatter episode, all of the submissions will always be anonymous. That's a way for everybody to just be protected. And if you send something shitty, we just don't talk about it. Nobody gets shitty with me except for me. Ha. So there's that. But yeah, we got some great questions sent to obscurechatter@gmail.com. And if you want to be in a new episode, I take questions now at any point in time. No more submission form or anything like that. Like, just send us an email. Or if you follow me on anything, you can be like, hey, on Obscure Chatter, can you talk about this? It's typically, if you really want me to really expand on something, that's the way to do it. So I've been talking about getting to questions, so let's do it. Let's do it. So first, we're starting with some like experiences tied to Halloween and tied to the paranormal and the creeptastic. So someone asked, have you ever had a paranormal experience that you couldn't explain? Now, and the answer is yes. I think for a while there, I was kind of like too much of a skeptic, if such a thing is possible. But, you know, through life and through some pretty horrible experiences, and some pretty great experiences too, I've had to just own up to, hey, I don't know everything, and I will continue to not know a bunch of stuff. But I think it's healthier to be open to possibility than basically blow off anything that I can't easily explain. But yeah, I talked about it on that anime show with when we had, I think it was our last normal like guest episode with Austin Tyndall, where we kind of talked about that, and Tatum and Austin had some really great experiences, and I kind of blew off mine. And in turn, they were like, that's actually like, you just went from like, oh, I don't have an experience to here's like the most insane experience ever. Something like that. I haven't listened to that yet for the TAS rewind. So I'm interested to revisit that because it's been a decade. I don't remember everything. But I talked about shortly after my dad passed away. When my dad passed away, I moved into his house. I lived alone for a long time, and I just mentally and physically, I was not well. And I was just left alone a lot. It's the more and more I think about it, the more fucked up it is that, you know, I lived alone, and I just was left to kind of put myself back together by myself. So there was a point where I went to sleep. My dad had a 2-bedroom house that was technically mine at that point. And I still hadn't moved out of my room. My room was also kind of like the guest room because I didn't live with him. I actually had just spent the summer with him a couple months prior. So I still kind of viewed it as my room, and I just couldn't bring myself to move into his room, which was the bigger room with the king size bed and the, you know, attached bathroom, all that. And I couldn't bring myself to sleep in there yet. I eventually did. But I had this like very interesting, like insane recollection that I was like, oh, this was a dream, until I went into the kitchen. Like I had this dream that I woke up, you know, in the morning, and I heard all this kerfuffle in the kitchen and came out of my room, and my dad was just in the kitchen. And I was like, what? And like broke down, like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it wasn't real. Like, you know, I know you thought I was dead, but I'm not. And, you know, I'm sorry that you're hurt. Let's just move past that. I don't really remember, because now, as of this month, it's been 22 or 23 years. It's been a minute. 21. And we spent the day together. Like, he made me, breakfast, and we just watched movies, and stayed in the house, and we made lunch. And then, we just kept catching up and talking about how insane everything that I had to go through with, like, the estate and all this stuff, and just how, like, my brother was doing, and just how my mom took everything, and blah, blah, blah. And then a little after dinner, in this dream, he got up and just, like, got his keys, and he's like, it's time to go. Like, what do you mean? He's like, I mean, I have to go. And I, like, just got it immediately, like, oh, this is a dream. And we said goodbye, and I woke up, and I, like, just immediately started crying. But I went into the kitchen, and there were plates for every meal, one eaten, one not. So I'm left to be like, how mentally unwell am I that I did all this? And all the way, by the way, I'm 40 now. I don't cook very much. I only do, like, prepared things. And these were staples of, like, my dad's cooking. Things I don't make or know how to make the way he did. And it was, like, there's my breakfast plate, and there's the untouched breakfast. There's my lunch plate, da-da-da-da-da-da. And those were all there. I threw away food. Like, so you can be as skeptic as I used to be, and just be like, yeah, you had a psychotic break, which, I mean, fair, maybe. Or something that was super paranormal happened. I'll leave that up to you. But yeah, I think maybe I explained it in a little more detail in that anime show. Well, no, we'll figure it out together as we re-release that anime show. But and then the other one, it was I do a lot of thrifting, estate sales, and all that, and I was with Steven, and Steven's always been very sensitive to energies and stuff like that. But estate sales typically aren't like tag sales or garage sales. They're like, this person passed away, and you're walking into their house, and most shit is just marked with tags and everything, and just, take it up to the person that's near the front door and buy it, or don't. Done. But, I'm on, like, estatesales.net, and Steven and I decided to drive a little further than we normally do for some random stuff. And when we walked in, Steven immediately was like, whoa, the person that passed away is not happy all these people are in their fucking house. Like, whoa, yeah, I felt it too. But, we went into, like, a little back room that had all this yarn and dolls and stuff. And immediately I'm just like, whoa, I cannot be in here. Whoa. But there were a couple things that I liked, so I bought them. And as Steven and I were, like, walking out, like, he and I kind of like, all right, we need to get the fuck out of here. This bitch is pissed. And, like, a couple seconds after we said that, we passed the threshold. We both passed out in the yard. Like, we blacked out for, like, a couple minutes, to the point where someone was like, y'all okay? We're like, oh yeah, we tripped. And, like, what the fuck was that? And we went to Fuzzy's Taco to just, like, eat our feelings and be really confused for a while. But, like, it took us a minute to be okay enough to make, like, the long drive home. Random. Those are my, like, as far as paranormal, those are like the big ones that immediately spring to mind. Let's see. We have another question. What's the creepiest or most inexplicable thing that's ever happened to you or someone you know? I guess I've already lightly touched on it, and I definitely talked about it on a Halloween special. I think the second Halloween special, which is for that anime show, which is the first Victor Costley thing. And I remember recording this, and Tatum was there, and his partner at the time, Joshua, was there, and Steven, because Steven was recording it. And I didn't realize how into the story they were till I opened the booth door, and they're like, oh, God. But I didn't consider it paranormal or titillating because it happened to me, which I guess is the whole thing. That's, I guess, one thing that I don't get about like true crime. And another thing, as far as like horror, I'm a big horror fan. I have been for quite a long time, but people always assume like I'm really into like Ted Bundy stuff or, Dahmer. I'm like, I'm not. I'm into horror movies. I'm into fiction. I know a lot of horror that I like is based around real shit. But I'm really not into it, and I really don't like a lot of people capitalizing on very real victims and putting, surviving family and friends through some pretty horrendous shit just for the sake of entertainment. That's a whole other story. But I talked about it. I think we didn't have a name for the story, which was just me recounting some stuff. But Ian actually named it, as Victor Costley called The Caller. Called it The Caller. And it was about this person that, to this day, I don't know who it was, but it started when I still lived with my mother, before my dad passed away, and continued a few years after my dad passed away. Still don't know who, but this person always knew when I was home alone. And I initially thought it was like my brother's friend, and it sounded like they were just like razzing me at first, but then it became like them threatening to burn my house down. There was damage to my car. They knew the one time my friend Nathan needed a place to stay. My friend Nathan was like this nomad. That was the only time he ever called when this person ever called when someone else was there, and Nathan actually talked to him. And I slept with a bat in my bed for a while, and when I moved out and my dad passed away, my mother never received any calls, nothing like that. One time I house sat for her, and I sure as shit got a phone call. To this day, I don't know. And it was my mom's landline. I didn't get a cell phone until I was like 19. So I never got a call through that, but that was pretty fucking creepy, just even if it were a joke, it wasn't funny. It was actually really terrifying to me. And there was actually a colleague that did a prank on me a few years back where I was getting some death threats online. Like this person talking about setting me on fire, drowning me, and all this. And this colleague, I'd say friend, but this actually cemented like me never wanting to really hang out with him outside of when I absolutely had to, which was they called from a different number and they distorted their voice, and it brought me back to a really weird time with the caller, but also it really made it seem like it was this person that had been threatening my life. Like, hey, I need to talk to you. You were really mean to me, and I'm going to make you pay, all this stuff. And I like broke down. I broke down and was not well. And it was like, yeah, it was a joke. I'm like, let's say none of this stuff happened to me. I still don't see how that's funny. Like, I think someone's just kind of flaunting the privilege of being, a straight white man. But that's neither here nor there, man. Anyways, moving on. Next question. If you could spend the night in any haunted location in the world, where would it be and why? I'm not a big like haunted house person. Like what was it? Like if it's Halloween, like, like if it's something spooky, I'll go for it. Like we did a ghost tour in Fort Worth. There's like this woman that does, I think there are a few people that do ghost tours in the stockyards in Fort Worth. And that was okay. When I was in Vermont, I actually did. I think I arrived in Vermont for a con Halloween day, and the con actually arranged for us to do like I'd say a walking tour, a ghost tour. I don't know, but it was for the victims of H.H. Holmes, which was wild. And also, random side note, like H.H. Holmes was kind of the main reference for my character in Golden Kamuy. Like weird little, okay, cool. Hope you guys know that. But I'm just not a big like, oh, this is haunted, let's go. But I used to be a really big fan of Ryan and Shane on BuzzFeed. I tried to watch their Watcher stuff, but it just didn't have the same flavor. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But they did a one night or a couple night stay at the Queen Mary in Long Beach. And it made me want to go. It just seemed fun. I don't know. Maybe because it's just like, it's a ship. It's kind of a hotel, blah, blah, blah. Could I really tell you like why outside of that? Like, no, it just seems like something that would be interesting to do. So maybe I'll do it one day. Maybe I won't. I wonder if there's like a big haunted thing. I don't know. Like, does a place being haunted, is that like a really big sell for people? I don't know. I really don't know. But let's see, what else? Have you ever used a Ouija board or tried to contact spirits in some way? Okay. This actually is like a point of contention for a lot of friends. I say Ouija. I don't know if it's exactly right. It's just got a fucking A at the end of that. I watched like some random Amityville movie, and I remember this dude bro being like, "You have to destroy that Ouija," and it just stuck. Ouija sounds weirder to me, like the Ouija board. Ugh. Or someone's like claiming to be an expert. I'm always expecting them to say Ouija. Just like when someone's claiming to be an expert, when they say Sam Hain, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Say Samhain, damn it. Damn you. You are not people that are supposedly experts in episodes of Supernatural, senor. But I think maybe we did. You know, there's those old 90s commercials that are like, I'm not the planchard, like a bunch of kids like holding the planchard or having their fingers on the plan. Like, I'm not moving it. You're moving it. I never really got it. I do think they have some power to them. Even the ones that say, you know, Parker Brothers on it. It's like so odd. But I guess if you're going to get one from a place, you know, where you know it's sealed and no one's ever messed with it. I got a used one once because it was just so stupidly cheap at a thrift shop. And friends that are very sensitive to energies are like, why the fuck would you bring that in your house? And we cleansed it immediately. And then like a couple of years later, like, what if I wanted to get rid of this? Like, let's burn it. Burn it. I'm not really into like contacting spirits or anything like that, or just not for me. But yeah. Okay, so we have more questions. Let's see. What's the scariest movie or book you've ever experienced? Why did it leave such an impression on you? I don't know. I'm hit or miss on horror books. Movies, obviously, scary movies. Most of the time, I'm not scared. I used to be, but that still occasionally happens. I can still really like a scary movie, even if I don't get scared. For some people, I don't know why. I didn't even get scared. Like, was it a good movie though, bitch? Calm down. And as far as books, I'm hit or miss, on horror reads, but it feels like a cop out. Because I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books every year. But the last one is me finally, and I talked about this before, finally reading The Shining and immediately jumping into Dr. Sleep. Loved both. And I'm still not 100% on the Kubrick movie, but I love what, I still like it. I think there was a way, I'm not going to go there. Nah. There were ways to do certain things, but I'm just, no, Terry, fight it. Fight it. Fight the film dork within you. Anyways, but I can't think of like what's the scariest book you've ever experienced. But I'll think of the latest one, which might be the most. I don't know, but I remember reading The Shining, and I tend to read most in bed, read for about an hour and a half and then go to sleep. But I was reading The Shining, and it's the scene where Danny is in 217. If you haven't read the books, it's not 237, it's 217. And he's like trying to just convince himself the woman in the bathtub isn't really there. And Stephen King's describing these wet hands like circling his neck. And right when these wet hands are circling Danny Torrance's neck, Stephen taps my shoulder, and this motherfucker almost got punched in the face. Like, I don't think he understands how much he almost got super punched in the face. Can you imagine? Stephen, why do you have a black eye? Do we need to call someone? Should we call the cops? And I'm like, no, Terry read The Shining, and I should have just instinctively known that she was at a scary part. But it scared the shit out of me. It scared like, no! Which, yeah. Let's just all be grateful Stephen's still here. And, let's just end with that. Okay, another one. Are there any horror movies or books that you've had to turn off or stop reading? It really takes a lot for me to quit a movie. I remember my boyfriend Matthew and I, we were watching. He wasn't ever really into horror movies, and kind of shit on a lot of the movies I liked. But there was one where I think we saw in theaters. God, I think it was Wolf Creek or something. And for there are people that absolutely love that movie, but I just don't really like any kind of depiction of SA or anything that really kind of seems to be centered around tormenting a woman simply for being a woman or anything like that. I don't remember what really didn't vibe, but like we left, and I never leave movies. But it's like, I think we left in enough time that we were able to get like a partial refund, if not a full refund. But I'm like, and Matthew was like, oh, thank God. Like, I thought it was just me. Like, no. But no depictions of SA or pets dying is a big no-no. It's a big no-no for me. Children dying, that's a big no-no. Like, there is a way artistically and stylistically to like get, like, oh, hey, this happened to this character, or, this animal died, or this child died, without me like seeing it. And it could be, those could all be directly tied to my personal experiences and my own triggers, but those are just not good. Like, that'll immediately turn me off a movie. Like, And another thing, I had the recommendation to watch The Substance, which honestly, I don't know how it totally fell under my radar, but, like Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid and, oh God, a great actress that I can't remember where else I remember her from. But they're like, oh, have you seen The Substance? And they warned me. They're like, it's body horror. I'm like, oh, maybe it's not that. No, it gave me like Society vibes, which if you've never seen Society, I'm not a big body horror person either. Oh my gosh. But if you like The Substance, good on you. Like, it's a really interesting movie that actually really fits, just the world we live in now. I get it. It just wasn't for me. Blech. But what's a lesser known horror film or book you think more people should check out? Books, I mean, just with anything, I think if you've listened to the podcast or gotten to know me through like social media, you kind of get my vibe. My vibe doesn't always gel with yours, just like vice versa. You know, like someone that I've known for years recommending the substance to me and be like, oh, well, I trust her, to give it a shot, and her giving me the exact warning that I needed, being like, all right, I know that going in, didn't vibe with me. And, relationship over. Don't ever talk to me again. No, but I can't think of books immediately off the top of my head. I'll always talk about The Final Girls, 2015, The Final Girls. It's what the movie that came out last year, I believe, Totally Killer. It's what Totally Killer wanted to be. Their ass said it. 2015, The Final Girls. Check it out. Love it. Hate it. I don't care. Dead and Breakfast, if you want pure camp. It came out in 2004. Dead and Breakfast. Diedrich Bader's in it randomly. Oh my God, David. Oh my God, what is David Carradine is in it randomly. I think his niece is too. Oz Perkins. Musical numbers with zombies. It's super random. Oh, also Bianca Lawson, who is amazing and aging very well. Hello. Yeah. And then the other ones that I always talk about, Waxwork 1 and 2. Waxwork is actually really cool and really random. But then 2, they just went further with it and owned up to the ridiculousness of it. Like, you'll recognize a lot of people. Bruce Campbell being the most Bruce Campbell that's ever Campbelled Bruce outside of the Evil Dead trilogy. There, it's great. Try it out. Let's see. What new question? Do you have any Halloween-related traditions or rituals you follow every year? The big one is I carve a pumpkin every year. We have them. Need to do it, but try to wait. Do not carve your pumpkin too early. Even if it's not within the day of Halloween, you're doing it too early. But carving a pumpkin and baking the seeds. So be very chill with what you use to take out the pumpkin seeds and clean it all up. And I'm not one of these people that has to do like a giant, portrait or whatever on my pumpkin. It's simple. Cut out the eyes. Nose is optional. Give it a big, goofy smile. That's it. Makes me happy. Oh, let's see. Do you believe in any superstitions? If so, I actually asked Steven about this, and he's like, you always do the salt thing. I'm like, what salt thing? He's like, you always throw salt over your shoulder. I'm like, holy shit. I used to do it, and I guess it's second nature now. And then anytime we're walking, if we get separated by a rail or whatever, I always do that bread and butter thing. That's as deep as my superstitions go that I can think of. Maybe I'm not thinking about it deep enough, but yeah. Okay. Have you ever been to a Halloween party or event that stood out as especially fun or creepy? Tia Ballard and Felicia Angel throw a hell of a Halloween party. They have real, I've went to a couple of their Halloween parties, where you can dress up or you cannot dress up. Nobody gets shamed for that. Even when you go to the bathroom, their bathtubs all bloodied up and all that stuff. I forget which year I went as Snot Girl, Lottie Person, but, that was a fun one. And then I think the next year I went as Moriko Morioka, which is so funny because I just incorporated every part of that costume except for the purple wig into my normal house clothes. Oh yeah. But yeah, they throw a heck of a party. But okay. If you could design your perfect haunted house, what would it look like and what would happen inside? How do you design a perfect haunted? I guess from the, you know, horror attraction perspective, nah, I wouldn't do anything like that. I can't do it. Although, I remember as a kid asking my aunt Gloria, if the Tales from the Crypt House was real. She told me it was. Broke my heart when I realized it wasn't. And that, you know, all the shots and everything, that it's a real house. And so I really had a very intense moment or two as a kid where I'm like, okay, I have to figure out where this house is and start looking at like what kind of careers are around there, because I have to live in this house until the day I die. And then, you know, I'll get the catacombs underneath, and the crypt keeper can still stay there. You know, he doesn't have to move. It's adorable, right? Come on, it's pretty cute. But yeah, so like I got married at Zombie Manor during the off season. I love haunted houses. I don't miss creating soundscapes for rooms and all that. And I love like going blah and scaring the shit out of somebody. Like, real talk. Steven was just going through his equipment earlier today. He just didn't see me as I was like hovering over him, and I belched, scared the shit out of him. He dropped his phone. He almost broke a piece of equipment, and I'm like, it's the little things. It really is. So yeah, no, if I've ever done like a big jump scare, like there was one year where it was me, Tia Ballard, Mike McFarlane, Steven, and I think that was it. And I went ahead in a haunted house and just jumped out and scared Tia, and she punched me very, very hard in the boob. Like, she did like a big like Bobby Hill stance, like went, no, and Jesus, she got me. And it was deserved. It was very well deserved. Tia Ballard, it's always the tiny ones. Tiny little ones that have just got like these fists of fury. She frogged my right boob. But I deserved it. Okay, next question. If you had to pick one, would you rather encounter a vampire, werewolf, or ghost? It's that like, oh, hey, can't say no in improv. Like, first of all, you can. It's how you say no. But I don't know. It depends. Am I just like running into these people at a bar or something? Or are they hunting me? I don't know how a ghost would hunt somebody. Whatever. Let's say a ghost. So we can just be like, so how'd you die? Maybe it's like Ghosts, which is like my favorite new show. Just kind of be like, so you can't interact with anything. That sucks. Yeah, I remember like talking about it with we were over, Brina Palencia and I were over at Christy King's house once, and I forget how we got onto this subject where it's just like, well, I guess I kind of live like a vampire. And Brina's like, excuse me, you have werewolf written all over you. Like, who are you? I'm like, oh, well, you have mermaid all over you. And she's like, well, duh. Like, just like, I really thought I gave more vampire than werewolf energy, but I mean, Brina Palencia is never wrong. That's like a scientific fact. So, yeah, I don't want to meet another werewolf. Like, I'm enough of a werewolf, thanks. And vampires, if I am a werewolf in this scenario, like, I don't want to fight. So just be like, hey, you do you, man. You stay over there. Stay over there. And I'm just going to go over here and chill. Leave me alone. Next question. Do you think there's any truth to cryptids like Bigfoot or Loch Ness? I do. Next question. Do you think it's possible for the veil between the living and the dead to be thinner on Halloween night? I don't know if anybody else thought this, but there was a hunter's moon a couple days ago for me. Who knows when you're listening to this. And I felt really like off all day. I'm going to be a skeptic enough to say, full disclosure, I had just gotten my flu and COVID vaccine. So I'm going to put it to that more than anything, but maybe that's exactly what the Hunter's Moon wanted me to think. Kidding. But, or am I? But I think November 1st and 2nd tend to hold more energy than Halloween night or Halloween. But maybe I'm wrong. What if I'm not, though? Okay, next question. Why do you think people are so fascinated by fear and the supernatural? I think it's the same reason that a lot of people like horror movies. It's a way of dealing with trauma in a controlled environment. So often, a lot of us are traumatized in circumstances we can't control. Like we can leave the haunted house. We can turn off the movie. We can close the book. It's not always that simple. So that's me. Now the question. Do you believe that ghosts have unfinished business, or are they just echoes of the past? Damn, these are good. I don't know about the unfinished business thing. Like I was watching Casper, honestly, earlier today. It's not what I'm watching right now as I record this episode, but like Casper, it was actually a lot darker than I remember, but still very sweet story. But how, spoiler alert, Christina Ricci's character in Casper trick, like what turns out to be the main bad guy into moving on is, she's dead. It's like, well, what about your unfinished business? Like, I don't have any unfinished business. I'm perfect. And then that's what gets her to cross over. It's like, oh, in theory, but who's to say there's unfinished business? Like, maybe I was supposed to go the exact time that I was supposed to go. And the people that are left behind, it's like, oh, it just sucks because they wanted to do this. Like, that's for the living at that point. Like, I don't have to worry about that anymore if I've passed on. I don't know about the unfinished business thing, honestly. Maybe if there are, but I don't think they're echoes of the past. I think there's got to be some consciousness to it, right? Like, maybe they just don't feel like they've lived enough. And this is their way of continuing. Oh, as I adjust here, continuing in the only way they can. Just trying. I don't know. Okay, another question after some water. Do you think Halloween has become too commercial, or do you enjoy all the decorations? Halloween, okay, maybe I'm alone here, but I didn't, what was it? I was looking at just a random thing, and a lot of people, like, chocolate's gotten so expensive that a lot of people aren't doing chocolate for like their trick-or-treat candy. And I don't know, there's just something about that and just the vibe. Halloween these past couple of years have been just a little too something. Am I alone? Like, it just, and it, I gotta be real, like, it might also have to do with the fact that I'm just someone who doesn't have kids. When I was entertaining the idea of becoming a parent, one of the things I was really looking forward to is like helping my kid with their costume, being the mom at the end of the driveway, like watching my kid get candy. And, I don't know. My neighborhood's hit or miss on trick-or-treaters and all that. And I know some people do like Trunkaweens now. Like, I don't know. I thought the whole point was to just kind of like vibe with the neighborhood, vibe with your neighbors. Or in my case, a lot of us, we always drove to the better neighborhoods. Instead of like, trick-or-treating when I lived in an apartment or when I lived in a trailer park, it just didn't hit the same way. Maybe it is too commercialized. I also don't understand like brands that are like, oh yeah, here's our Halloween exclusive thing. I'm like, okay, so I'm supposed to get it. And, most of my Halloween stuff is stuff I use year round. Like one of my lamps in my office is just like a 60s jack-o'-lantern lantern. I'm just a goob that way. But maybe it is. Okay, it probably is. What's your favorite piece of Halloween trivia that most don't know? I don't know if most don't know this, but there was a girls' night I went to forever ago where a friend had never carved a pumpkin ever, and we're like, what? So we had some pumpkins and got to show her my tricks of the trade and all that. But she's like, man, when did I can't believe, I don't know. She said something about I guess pumpkins are the perfect thing, for the light up thing. I'm like, well, they weren't originally pumpkins. They were turnips or potatoes. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, they were root vegetables typically. And shut down that fun conversation we were having with an actually. Terri Doty, fun police, working year round. Yeah. Do you think Halloween should be a public holiday with a day off like Christmas? Honestly, no. But maybe. I don't know. If you're a parent, with kids, I remember younger kids, we took them to trick or treat earlier in the day, so there would still be some light. So I would guess that some people probably leave early on Halloween to take their kids trick or treating. So in order to not look like it's favoritism is what I said with a B, favoritism, in order to avoid that and not be like, oh, well, you don't have a family, so you get to stay at work. Maybe, but I don't know. That just seems odd. Figure out your kids trick-or-treating well beforehand. Okay. If you could create a Halloween costume based on a character or theme that hasn't been done before, what would it be? Okay. I can't say for certain that it's never been done before. It's something my friend Aaron came up with. And as far as I know, he never did it. And I've brought it up to so many people, like, oh my God, that would be hilarious. And I've just never seen it done. Maybe somebody's done it. If somebody has done it, send me a photo because I want to fucking see this. I want to either do this or see this be done at a party that I'm going to. I want to see someone dressed as the Second Amendment. And what I mean by that is I want someone to be dressed as they normally are, but have bear arms, like arms of a bear, and be the right to bear arms. Done. I'm not kidding. Okay. What's something that scares you now that didn't scare you as a kid? Honestly, germs, probably. You think about hide and go seek, as a kid, I hid behind a toilet and all this stuff. And now if somebody just hands me a pen and I don't know where it's from, I will throw that pen away. I will do a cross with my fingers and, baby wipe myself to oblivion. These are bees today. I don't know why, but there you go. So I guess just being too aware of things, maybe. The beginning of the pandemic didn't help with a lot of my cleanliness phobias. But also, yeah, just driving hasn't gotten any easier. On average in Texas, 1,000 people move here a day and they all drive like shit. We drive like shit anyway. Please stop coming here if you can't better the driving experience. That's honestly a big thing is I'm really afraid I'm going to die in a car accident. I'm not kidding. And you can point this as something, if I ever do die in a car accident and be like, oh my God, she just knew, because I did. But I would love to be proved incredibly wrong. I would love to be 104 and just go in my sleep. That's the dream, baby. But yeah, cars are the big one. But only when I'm not driving. But yeah, also got to invest in some dash cams. People are being crazy. Can you think of a time when your fear actually protected you from something bad happening? All the time. All the time. All the time. Some really good ones versus others, or, or just like when things happen to work out in like a holy shit kind of way. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like I'd never ridden in a helicopter, and Steven had been trying to book that to, cross that off my bucket list. And Steven's like, holy shit, the reason that we haven't heard from these people is they died in a helicopter crash. Motherfucker. But nothing stopped me from doing that. Fear, the cars are a big one. I don't ever want to go into the ocean. Like, that doesn't interest me at all. I respect the sea. I don't even like flying over the ocean. Like, But mostly it's, think of a time when your fear protected you. It's just stranger danger and just trusting your vibes, trusting your gut. You could look like a sad Sally being like, oh, or, a Debbie Downer being, oh, you're not going to do this. Like, Sometimes it'll just be like, I just have a feeling. And sometimes it means nothing. Other times it means, you're stopping your friend from getting like a drug-laced drink, or just victims of circumstance, or becoming a victim of circumstance. I don't know. Like, yeah, I'll just leave it there because I can't think of anything else immediately, but good question. If you had to make a Halloween dinner party menu, what would you serve? I gotta tell you, I am getting to that point where it's like, oh, I've had a piece of candy, I'm set. Like, if you have a Halloween party, do like what Tia and Felicia did. Like, they had like a fuck ton of different stuff. Like, Felicia had like a gumbo and all this shit. It was so fucking good. Like, an insane thing for a party because it's a very hot, big, liquidy thing. But just adjusting, sorry. And for those curious, yes, I'm still in my living room. It's almost cool enough to go back into the booth. Almost. Honestly, immediately what comes to mind is just finger foods. Like, oh God. Dawn Bennett used to bring these like spring rolls everywhere. She used to bring them to the studio all the time. I've been craving them. So let's just go with those. Bunch of finger foods. Steven and I were trying to figure out what to do for Halloween dinner, just so you can like also not have something very involved if you do get trick-or-treaters. It's like chicken nuggets and tater tots. I want to go like a latchkey kid meal for it. I don't know why, but yeah. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. What would you do if you found out that one of your friends was actually a vampire or werewolf? We've discussed this already. Nothing really. Like, you do you, I'll do me, and we'll just keep on keeping on. But it also depends on the mythology. Like, what kind of vampire is it? Or what kind of werewolf? Is it a werewolf that can transform at will? Or is it a victim of the moon and the lunar cycle? Is it like the Buffy werewolf where it's actually 3 nights a month? Who knows? Or a vampire? Is it a I can't keep up this voice. Yeah. You be chill. As long as, not like, hey, by the way, I'm a vampire. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm about to kill you. Be like, oh man, that's not cool. Last words, that's not cool. But, okay, what else? Do you think certain places hold more supernatural energy than others? If so, what might be the cause? I mean, it depends on the history. Places hold on to history. They really do. It's the design of the place. Like, think about like the Sarah Winchester, like the Winchester house, which is, that's another place I would love to go to. What's the legend on that is she kept building because if she ever stopped building the house, she would die. And it's when she stopped building that she died. Something like that. I don't know. And the design of the house. And also, honestly, yeah, like how many people died there? When Steven and I were house hunting, or off and on when we do house hunt, we are like, I think of like Dwight coming down the stairs of like David's house and looking at his wife and being like, someone died in the basement, didn't they? Or, like we ask all the time, like, hey, did anyone die here? And like, legally, you have to tell me, right? And like, actually, legally, we don't. I don't know. There's something about this area. They actually don't have to tell you. But yeah, as far as I know, nobody's died in the house that I've had for over a decade. But I would think if we moved, that there would be some kind of like energy that we left behind. I don't know. You'd have to sage the fuck out of this place. What's the most famous haunted location you've been to? And did anything spooky happen? Went to a few, again, like those haunted tours. When we went to Vegas, we went to Zach Bagans' Haunted Mansion and definitely encountered haunted items. There were some things that weren't really haunted and just kind of like, okay, like this bed that was like questionable from like this guy that was kind of like a pimp, or like there were a couple things from like Brandon Lee. I think Brandon Lee's coat from The Crow and stuff. And I'm like, oh, the house itself didn't feel, and I forget like the exact house. The house has a history to it. And, there were crawl spaces that we went, that we were able to go through. And there were a couple of really tight rooms that were filled with nothing but dolls. And I always, not to show my freak or whatever, but like I always talk to dolls. I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, like I'm coming in here, mean you no harm. Please leave me alone. That kind of thing. I don't, maybe that's weird. Don't care though. I'm going to keep doing it. But there was a basement and our tour guide was like explaining, he's like, so here, let me give you the layout of the basement. And the reason I'm giving you the layout of the basement is because I'm not going down there with you. I can't. I'm incredibly sensitive. And as he was explaining it, you heard this like, and he like stopped what he's doing and he's like, leave me alone. Leave me alone. And he's like, did anyone else hear that? And people are like, yeah. I'm like, sure, whatever. He's like, if you don't want to go, you stay to the side. And there was one girl in our group, I think it was a relatively small group, that was so taken that you heard like the tour guide like talking to security and being like, no, she's fine. Give her a second. Like, do you need to leave? She's like, no. Kind of shitty, but her boyfriend went down there without her. I'm like, I don't know if I'd go without my dude. But whatever. But because Steven's more sensitive than me, I checked in on him. So we went down and I was like, I was ready to like feel something. And one thing was, it was Bela Lugosi's mirror. And some people are said to feel really weird and feel a presence with them if they look into the mirror too long. And I didn't. But I did find myself getting closer to the mirror to the point where Steven's like, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And then we just went back up, and the girl that was just like waiting at the top of the stairs with our tour guide, she's like, I'm sorry, guys. Like I feel like I'm wimping out. Like, hey, don't shit on yourself. It's something that bothered you. Like, it's fine. And she's like, okay. But yeah, we were fine. Did you hear that? I don't know what that was. I heard a little, I don't know what that was. Bum, bum, bum. All right. Just a few more questions and then I'm going to motor. But yeah, are there any Halloween or autumn festivals you've always wanted to? Steven and I were in New Orleans in October, but we like left a little bit before Halloween. And I would love to go back during Halloween. I'm not, as of this month, I haven't had a drink in a year. So I still think there's plenty to do pretty much everywhere that doesn't involve drinking. But I'd like to go back. And I'd like to, like, we each went to different, like, readings, mediums and stuff. And I would love to do all that again, but just explore more than the French Quarter. But I stayed in the French Quarters just be able to walk everywhere. And honestly, I don't regret it for my first visit. I'd love to go back. I'd also love to go back to Vegas and still maybe go to the Zach Bagans Museum again. That'd be fun. But what's your earliest memory of Halloween? I thought about this as I was compiling questions. I'm like, honestly, I talk about, the costumes where I'm like, I had no idea what I was. The first one I remember with like clarity is I was like a princess ballerina. I loved my pink tutu and I had like the light pink tights and everything. And I just remember being happy. I had a little like star wand. I loved it so much. It made me very happy. And thinking about it makes me happy. I think my brother was like an axe murderer. And then I asked Steven, and Steven actually brought up, I was like, what's your earliest one? And he immediately was like, Spider-Man. I was Spider-Man and I loved it until he thought that a neighbor was chasing him, but the neighbor was actually just trying to give him more candy. And Steven ran away from him, fell, skinned his knee, and his candy fell out all over the road. Little baby Steven. But, all right. I love a little baby Steven in a Halloween, a little Spider-Man costume. If only we could see it. See evidence. What's the first horror movie you remember watching, and did you get scared? I can't. I'm telling you, I was left alone without supervision for a very long time as a kid. And my babysitters did not give a fuck. I remember watching, that's how I watched The Howling for the first time. Or I do remember one babysitter, she really wanted to watch, I guess, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And was like, you're not going to have nightmares if we watch this. I need to watch it. I rented it and I need to watch it now. Like, oh, no, I don't care. And we were watching it and I wasn't scared at all. A lot of people talk about how scary that movie is. I'm like, I don't know if I'm revealing too much about myself, but it's not scary to me. It's not scary. But it was fine. And she was checking in with me a lot until the scene in the maze, at the center of the maze with Lucy and a very beastly Dracula getting it on. And she was like, oh, okay. And we had to stop the movie. And I was like more interested in that. Like that's what made her stop. Not like the drinking blood and all this stuff. It was like, whoa, Terri. I don't want to explain sex to you. My parents off and on have cable, madam. I think I know what it is, but go on. Pretend you're protecting me with my innocence, Oh, my Lord, what was that? But yeah, I can't remember exactly, but I watched a lot of movies that I think are great, and I still don't really like Bram Stoker's Dracula. There, I said it. But as we close out, as we near closing, there is a would you rather section. And I encourage everybody, if there are any answers that you have for any of the questions that have been asked, please share them with me because I love hearing from you guys. I really, really do. And who knows, if it's a really good story, I'll bring it up in the next episode. Okay. Would you rather spend the night alone in a haunted house or in the woods where a known cryptid has been sighted? Oh my God, there's another knock. I never hear knocks in my house. I don't know if you guys heard that. I'm not kidding. There is nothing. Oh, okay. Well, that was me. But the other ones weren't. That's weird. Probably a haunted house. I'm not really a big fan of the woods. And it's not even the woods. It's like spiders and all that. I went for a walk off the beaten path yesterday with Steven. We were just walking around the park because it's been really nice out here. And I kept hearing noises and all that, but my main thing was like, I don't want to run into anybody else, and I don't want to run into spiders. No spiders or snakes. No, thank you. So the haunted house. Haunted house is fine. Like, the ghost can just chill. I'm going to chill. And we could watch movies. We can even watch Bram Stoker's Dracula if they really want to watch it. Would you rather know when you're going to die or how you're going to die? I don't want to know either. I guess when. When would serve me less anxiety than how? Even if it's a pleasant way, like, oh, you just go to sleep and don't wake up. Or, nah, just tell me when. So I can plan things better. I don't. What would you guys pick? Would you rather be haunted by a friendly ghost forever or encounter a malevolent spirit just once? Friendly ghost forever is cool. Like, I want like Cordelia and Angel. I want her like Phantom Dennis, where like Dennis, helps me hide shit, and maybe not help me, like loofah in the shower or anything, but hey, roommate that you never see. That's not bad. Would you rather live in a world where magic is real but dangerous, or in a world with no supernatural elements? I have no idea. Magic is real and it's dangerous, but there you go. There we go. That was good. That was good, you guys. Thank you guys so much for submitting stuff. You guys were awesome. And we're keeping it chill. That's the big thing right now. It's just keeping it chill. And this, like I said, the vibes have been off this Halloween season, but hopefully that'll change. Keeping it very, very light, minimal baloney. And I encourage everybody else to do the same. What was it? If you do go out trick-or-treating, wear a costume. Don't be a jerk face about that. If you're gonna stay home, consider passing out candy. If you have a jack-o'-lantern outside, don't blow it out until after midnight. Okay. See, there's a little tradition that I do as well. I will move it to the back where I know if it caught on fire for whatever reason, it would just go out. Check your candy. There's always one weirdo that's interested in making things stupid for the rest of us. Respect the dead. Don't go to a graveyard or whatever. Most are private also. So as someone who almost got arrested as a teenager walking through a graveyard, they're privately owned and you could get arrested. Don't take down your decorations till November 3rd. I said it. Don't do it. And, keep the vibes cool. Don't scare anybody too bad. And yeah, that's really it. That's really, really it. As we wind down, I'm reminding you guys that we're probably not going to do anything special for November, but we're still doing a November episode. We used to take breaks in like November, December, or December, January, and now we're still finding a way to podcast it out. And if you're listening to this on anything other than obscurechatter.com, Audible, Amazon Music, Spotify, Player FM, iHeartRadio, blah, 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 blah. Please make sure that they are not altering our content in any way. There's a story there that we're not going to get into right now. And if the platform that you're listening to in any way promotes generative AI, please let me know and send a message at obscurechatter@gmail.com because I will ask for its removal. No, not going to do it. And if you've recommended something and you notice that it's not up, it's because I made sure that it wasn't available. And that's all I'll say on that. But please continue listening legally. The show is free and available, as many places as we can while still making sure that our content isn't being altered in any way. So read good shit until then. Watch good shit until then. Until then meaning until next we meet. And try not to be a shit. Even though scaring people is funny, you could get punched in the boob. Bye.